So welcome to the International Online Conference, Creating Stability Within Uncertainty. And then there's a subheadline, Flexibility, Surrender, Presence, and Initiative, various qualities or competencies that this conference will be about. And with us today is Mr. Thakur Powdyel from Bhutan. Mr. Powdyel was the first education minister of Bhutan. This was elected, part of the election 12 years ago, which was the first election in Bhutan, and he was serving as the first education minister. His background is for many years was education, and he served for 5 years. The elections in Bhutan, the government is for 5 years. If you may not know, as an audience in Israel, Bhutan was ruled by a king, and then the king then decided democracy will begin to happen, and that's when the first election took place. So thank you for being here and allowing us to listen to your insights and understanding, a little history and wisdom in this time of uncertainty and anxiety caused by an unexpected event, unexpected virus that landed, and including in Bhutan, and we'll hear about that in a minute. So, because most Israelis don't know Bhutan well enough, can you speak just very briefly about Bhutan and about the first election and you becoming the first education minister, and then we'll follow from there.
Kuzangpo and Shalom. Greetings from the jewel of the Himalayas, Bhutan, to the land of Ben Gurion by the Sea of Galilee. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this very important gathering. I see that most of the attendants, participants in the conference are educators, teachers like myself. So as a teacher to his fellow teachers, fellow educators, I would like to say what great joy it is for me to be able to join you at this point in time. Being a teacher takes tremendous courage. It takes tremendous sacrifice. It is one of the most heroic jobs, heroic missions in the world. So whatever you are doing, whether it is in the school, college, or university, you are making a difference. Educators are supposed to make the world a better place. And every single moment you see a child, a young man or woman, a boy or girl in your class or online, you make a difference. So to all of you educators, I would like to say, what a great service you're providing to your society and to the world and making a difference. As far as Bhutan is concerned, we are situated up in the Himalayas between two great neighbors, the People's Republic of China in the north and the Republic of India in the south. We are a small country, 300 kilometers east-west, 150 kilometers north-south as the crow flies. But as small as Bhutan is, it has a very ancient, long history going back to several centuries. Bhutan has been a monarchy for almost all of history. But in 2008, the first elections to the parliament were held. This was at the behest of the King of Bhutan, His Majesty Jigme Singha Wangchuk, who we revere as the King of Destiny. He was our fourth king, and we are very fortunate to have him guide the country even today through his wisdom. But His Majesty, the fourth king, decided that Bhutan would have to go democratic it must be a very, very rare incident in the history of monarchical traditions in the world for monarchy, for a king to pave the way for democracy. So Bhutan's evolution as a monarchy and now as a democracy, constitutional monarchical democracy, constitutional parliamentary democracy, this has been something very, very special. It was His Majesty the Fourth King of Bhutan who decided in his wisdom that Bhutan ought to go democratic. So in 2008, we had the first elections and we formed the first government for 5 years, 2008 to 2013. Bhutan has been following a very special mission, as it were. The fourth king decided that the conventional notion of measuring progress by using the yardstick called gross domestic product was not adequate to tell the story of development, to give the people a sense of progress in the society. So he decided that for Bhutan, the way to measure progress would have to be different. And he introduced the concept called gross national happiness. So today the world knows Bhutan primarily as a harbinger, as an initiator of this holistic, sustainable development paradigm called gross national happiness, as a marked departure from the conventional, utilitarian, materials-based yardstick called gross domestic product. So over the last 40 years or so, since this new concept of development called gross national happiness was introduced, Bhutan has been following this North Star. We call this the North Star. Every nation needs a North Star. Every society ought to have its own North Star. Just as indeed every man, woman, and child ought to have his or her own dream, so also every society, as indeed every nation, ought to have its own North Star. In the olden days, when precision equipment like we have today were not invented, sailors and the mariners on the wide open seas looked at the North Star to find the direction to the safety of the port. Today in the 21st century, not many people would look at the North Star. If at all, they would look at the mobile phone to find their direction. But even in the 21st century, we ought to look at the North Star, all the more so now than ever before. We need to know where the society is heading. Where will the country be 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, 15, 20 years down the line? So gross national happiness as a holistic, sustainable development paradigm is Bhutan's North Star.
So, I mean, I'm aware that during your 5 years in the ministry, as the education ministry, you initiated a process that was aimed to bring the GNH principles into education. And maybe you can, again, very brief, say, what does it mean for you, knowing that the GNH principle, gross national happiness, are about well-being on a personal level, on the culture level, on the planetary, ecological level, and then the management of the country or a school also needs to be well done on behalf of the governance, etc. What does it mean in education from your perspective, and why is it necessary?
Thank you so much indeed again. As I was saying earlier on, every nation needs a North Star to guide it in the direction that it wants to go. So if a nation has a North Star or a big dream, the subsystems of that nation ought to embrace and advance the dream or participate in that North Star or in the search of the North Star. So education is an extremely important subsystem of any nation, because in the education system, we have the leaders of the future. We have the most precious segment of the population, the most precious segment of the society, our children, our boys and girls, our future leaders are in our schools, colleges, and universities. So if we need these young men and women to be able to participate in the dream of the country and take it forward, the education system would have to bring them on board. So in 2009, the Ministry of Education of the Kingdom of Bhutan initiated a big nationwide educational reform initiative. We call it Gross National Happiness, or Educating for Gross National Happiness. And the strategy that we adopted to implement this program of Educating for Gross National Happiness was, and is still called, Nurturing Green Schools. Green schools as a means to an end, and the end is green Bhutan. Today, all around the world, there's so much of talk going on in the name of education, but not all of it is education. So we thought that it is important for Bhutan's education system to be as broad-based and as purposeful and meaningful as the program of Gross National Happiness itself is. So what we did was collect all the school leaders of the country and the deputy leaders of the country and put them through an extensive 360, program to bring them on board and to make them internalize what this aim of the Education Ministry was. So over a period of time, we were able to reach out to all the school leaders, deputy leaders, and the teachers across the country. So green schools is an important concept. Green is a color, but more importantly, green is a metaphor. Green is a metaphor for anything and everything that supports life and sustains life. And by life, we mean human life, animal life, bird life, plant life, reptiles, life in the sea, on land, in the sky, everywhere. So anything and everything that supports life in its multiple variety is green. So we can have a green school, we can have a green home, a green society, green economics, green politics, green parliaments, green laws, green economics. Green is a quality of mind. It is an orientation of mind. It is for life. It is an affirmation of life in all its multiple variety. So that's why a green school addresses the claims of multiple elements. Today's education around the world addresses mainly the claim of the mind, the claim of the intellect. At best, it addresses the claim of the corporations, of the marketplace, of factories. But human beings, our children, all of us, have so many elements, each of which has a claim on our education system, on teaching and learning. So what we did was address the multiple claims of life and this planet Earth on education systems and on teaching and learning. This was our aim at as we introduced the concept of green schools in Bhutan.
The green color is now attached to different countries where coronavirus situation is quite well managed. And there are countries in the red where coronavirus is up there. Is the green concept helping in the here and now? Bhutan, where we have India, we know in India there is a significant amount of coronavirus situation. In China, that's where it all began. And so what's the story in Bhutan?
As I mentioned earlier on, green is pro-life. Green is for life. Green is life. It is positive. It is beneficent. Green is pro-life. So at this point in time, when the whole world is literally choking under the yoke of COVID-19, Bhutan has been spared the worst. As of now, we have had no internal transmission. We have no fatality. His Majesty the King of Bhutan has been leading the intervention efforts from the front. We have mounted very stringent prevention measures. And at this point in time, even though there's still anxiety, there is still the fear of the uncertain. However, this is one of the finest times in Bhutan in the sense that the whole country has come together as a family under the leadership of His Majesty the King. And everybody is coming forward to make their own contributions, including the farmers who produce vegetables and raise livestock, the volunteers, the service forces, the business community, the industrialists, educators, civil servants, parliamentarians. Everybody has come together. And this is one time when, with all the anxiety and the uncertainty that we still have, when Bhutan has come as a family together. So we hope that there will be no major changes. At the moment, the situation has been handled very well. However, in the neighboring countries, the number of cases has been rising, so we're worried. And as a country, we also feel for the world. We pray for the world. The head of the monastic institution in Bhutan, His Holiness Chapji Rinpoche, has been conducting prayers across the country. So it is the monastic institutions, the society as a whole, the civil service, everybody has come together. And so far, we have been able to keep the virus under control. There have been some imported cases. Our Bhutanese people working and studying in different parts of the world are coming back. And some of the cases that have been recorded in the country have come with our Bhutanese citizens coming back from different countries. We have about 13 cases in total in isolation at the moment. About 83 have recovered, and we have altogether around 100 cases reported so far. All imported, no internal transmission, no fatalities, and the vast majority of the cases have recovered. So we hope and pray that we'll be able to keep the virus under control. And as far as green is concerned, at this point in time, nothing is more important for Bhutan than saving lives. His Majesty the King has desired that not a single life should be lost to coronavirus. And that is how it's been so far. Life being more precious than anything else at this point in time in Bhutan.
Just for the sake of the audience, Bhutan is a small country, as you have mentioned, the size. It's like 2 Israels, more or less. And the number of population is also not very high. It's about 750,000 people, I think, if I recall. Is there any awareness for how many schools do you have in Bhutan, including the city school and the faraway village schools? How many altogether?
Altogether, we have around 600 institutions in the whole country, beginning from the extended classrooms. This is the smallest unit of our education system. The extended classrooms all the way to the university. So altogether, about 600 institutions across the country. And as you mentioned rightly, about 750,000 people across the country. The total area is a small 38,394 square kilometers.
And you don't children right now, I know from you and from other colleagues and friends, there's no school right now for quite some time. And maybe you can say a little bit about that. We need to close very soon, about the no school situation. How is Bhutan, the teachers, the educators, the parents, the children are coping with the no school for quite some time, and what's next for education as far as you know in Bhutan? What's going to happen?
as I mentioned earlier on, we have had no internal transmission in the country so far. But we didn't want to take any chance. We had the first 2 cases of coronavirus that came through, 2 tourists from the United States. And they, in fact, alerted Bhutan to prepare for any eventuality. So right from day one, the preparations, the level of preparedness has been quite commendable. So one of the intervention measures that the government took was, in fact, a closure of schools and institutions when the number of cases around the world started rising. And that was sometime in March itself. And till now, majority of the schools and institutions are still closed. What we have done is reopen schools for standard 10 and standard 12 students because they will be taking the final board examinations. And some of the university colleges are also preparing to open. But it will take a little while for the rest of the institutions to resume classes. However, in the course of the closure, the Ministry of Education has mounted very active alternative measures. Online classes have been going on via the national television, radio, as well as social media. So, in fact, our teachers have been very busy delivering online classes to students via different media. And in cases where it's been difficult for children to cope with online classes, our teachers have been traveling from home to home to help students. However, this has also been a very, very good opportunity for Bhutan to try out alternative ways of delivering classes. So even though it had to be done at a very short notice, what our colleagues in the ministry across the system, in the schools, colleges, and universities are doing has been quite commendable. Of course, we missed the opportunity of seeing children in a face-to-face setting. However, this has been the second best. We had to reach out to the children, keep the children engaged. And of course, even the parents now are engaged in the education of the children. So we hope that even though we have had to scale back on the volume of teaching, whatever is happening in our children's homes, whatever is happening in the villages and across the country, we believe this is also education. This is the moment when a lot of our people have been able to look inward, to look at what is important in life, how to make the best use of what we have, and be grateful for the good things that are around. So education has been going on even beyond the classrooms.
How do you cope in this time? How if you can sort of, you have enough self-awareness to be able maybe to reveal, how do you cope? What kind of flexibility or adaptability are you executing? What kind of creative actions can you see yourself expressing?
I have been a teacher all my life. In the beginning, I had my classrooms, my school, my college, my university. And when I joined the Ministry of Education, the size of my classroom expanded to cover the whole country. The whole country became my classroom. And today, thanks to this technology, my classroom has expanded even further. Today, sitting in my room now, I can connect with you on the side of the Sea of Galilee. And in the same way, I've been able to connect with educators, thinkers, policymakers, planners across many countries. And being able to share some of my own ideals, my dreams, my conviction about education. Even though my role has changed several times in the past several years, however, at heart, I am an educator, I'm a teacher. And education is so very important today. We have seen that even though education may not be able to solve all the problems of the world, it is the most powerful instrument in bringing about positive change in the society. That is why we have built schools, built colleges, built universities, and collected in them the most precious segment of the population, children and youth, and we keep them for extended periods of time. So the purpose of education, the worth and the meaning of education has got to be worthwhile. And today, I'm so happy that teachers and educators around the world are doing their best, even within the COVID situation. Education is built on the principle of hope. It is built on the principle of possibility. We cannot afford to give up. We cannot afford to relax. So it may not be in a classroom. It may not be in a formal setting. We have to do what we can to share what we know, to contribute what we can to the making of the world a better place. And I think COVID-19 has taught us to be humble. It has taught us to be a little more reflective. And it is my hope that it will have taught us to be a little wiser. I think some of the finest things that have come as a byproduct of COVID-19 is what I call Revolution 5.0. Revolution 5.0 for me relates to the return of the human. Around the world, we have seen people going out of their way to help those in need, to volunteer. This is the finest moment for the spirit of volunteerism to flower and to blossom. And even our planet Earth has become greener. Our oceans and the seas have become cleaner. The sky has become bluer. The vegetation is so much greener. Water is more clean. The air is purer. So this is in a way one of the very beautiful byproducts of COVID-19. And my hope is that before we return to business as usual, these gains, these achievements, the beautiful expressions of basic human goodness will be stronger and in fact keep under control the GDP-based model of development, the GDP-based model of economics, the GDP-based model of exploitation of our planet Earth. Revolution 5.0 is also a moment when gross national happiness is able to find a bigger scope for manifesting itself. And Bhutan is doing that now. It is my hope that before the world returns to a situation of business as usual, the old norm, the old normal, the good things that we have seen manifested during this difficult time, during this painful time, will be stronger and manifest themselves even beyond COVID-19. This is my vision and my hope and my prayer. Revolution 5.0, return of the human, and appreciation and celebration of the beauty of our very dear, beloved planet Earth.
I think we are going to end here with this vision and hope and prayer for a betterment of education, society, and the planet in this time of uncertainty. Thank you for giving us your time and your wisdom and your insights and your experience and your care and your humanness And one day I still hope, when flights are back, for us to meet again in Bhutan, and for us hopefully to meet for the first time in Israel, as you say, in the land of Ben Gurion, and maybe visit the Sea of Galilee.
I would love to do that, and thank you so much again for having me participate in this very important effort. And to all the viewers and the participants, the members of the audience, I would like to offer this prayer for peace, for your good health and happiness wherever you are. Stay safe, take care of yourself, and may all be well with all of you. Thank you, and Tashidile.